Hey, welcome back. That last video introducing HTML forms was a little longer than I hoped, but the content and the information is very important. Please go back and watch that last video if you have not. What we're going to be looking at today are a smaller selection of form widgets like the checkboxes, radio boxes, drop-down menus, lists, buttons, password fields, and field sets. We're going to start off by creating some checkboxes. So go ahead and create a blank index HTML page if you've not already done so. Remember, fluency in programming only comes with practice. So even if you've done this already, we're going to go ahead and do it again. Using Adam's autocomplete feature, type HTML. We're going to go down to the body and type form. We're going to leave the action set to index HTML and leave the method set to post. Inside of this, we're going to create a div, and inside the div, we'll create a paragraph tag that says, choose your favorite food. After that, we'll create a new div, and inside that div, we're going to create a label. And for the label for attribute, we're going to type pizza, and in the text portion, we'll type pizza again. Below that, we'll type input, and we'll change the type attribute to checkbox. We're going to change the name to pizza, and the value we'll delete. Okay, to make this a little bit easier, we're going to go ahead and copy the div with the label and input, and we're going to paste it a couple of times here. And for the second one, we'll go ahead and change this to salad. And we'll make the text salad. We'll come down here. We'll type salad. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to create an ID up here that will be referenced by our label. So we need to put pizza in here. We'll come down here. We'll type ID, type salad. And we're going to change this one to, let's see, what would be a good one? How about tuna fish? Tuna-fish. I know some of you are going, ugh. All right, we'll type tuna fish, and in the name, we're going to say tuna. Remember, we're going to use underscores here for name values. Fish, and we'll create an ID. And the ID will be tuna-fish. And let's copy this one more time. Do it below this. And for this one, how about we have a favorite food of ice cream? Everyone loves ice cream. Type ice cream. And we'll change this to ice-cream to match our for attribute. And this one will be ice-_cream. The way this works, when the user checks a checkbox and hits submit, the name values for pizza, salad, tuna fish, and ice cream will all be submitted to the server with the value of on, depending on which ones you've checked before clicking the submit. Now, the ones you didn't selected, well, they won't show up in the form data of the request. Later on, we're going to go to Chrome and demonstrate these by using the developer tools. But as you can see, the checkbox is a widget that allows users to check or select a value. This could be one or many, and it's really up to you how you design the web page or what you're trying to accomplish. If you want the checkbox to be pre-selected, then what you need to do is add the checked attribute. The checked attribute is considered a Boolean attribute. That basically means that if the attribute is present, it's considered true. If the attribute is not present, well, then it's false. A radio is a bit different than a checkbox. In fact, the name radio button comes from how the old car radios used to work. You would press on one and then the previously selected one would pop out. I believe even the large standing household models did the same. Anyway, the HTML radio button is based on that behavior. You press one and any previously selected one in the group becomes unpressed or deselected. Okay, before we get going, I realize that we left off a submit button. So we're going to go ahead and add one real quick, because if you want to submit this form later, you have to have a submit button. And we'll go ahead and take out the name and the value since we don't need that for the submit. All right, So to create a checkbox, we're going to first start off by creating a new div to group our content. And inside of that, we're going to create a paragraph. And the paragraph tag, we're going to say select a temperature, because we want to alert them of possible temperatures that they could select. Inside this, we'll create a new div and we'll have a label. And for the label, we'll use hot. We'll change this to hot, not hot. We'll create a new input and we'll change this to radio. And for the name attribute, because we're grouping all of our radio buttons together, all grouped radio buttons, they need to have the same name attribute. So for this one, we're going to use temperature. But for the value, when they select this, it should say hot. All right, let's go ahead and copy this a couple of times. We're going to paste. Let's go up to this one. We're going to change it to warm. Change the label value to warm. We'll go in here and we'll change the value here to warm. We'll change this one down here to cold, and this one to cold, and we'll change this to cold. And it looks like we forgot our IDs. So let's go ahead and add our IDs in here. These are important for the for attribute to connect the label to the checkbox. So we'll make sure it matches. Create it again. This is warm. And this one is, whoops, I cannot type. Cold. Okay. Now, when we use the radio button, we're predetermining the values that the user can select. You're giving the user the option of which value they might want to select that you've provided. If you want to ensure that at least one option is pre-selected, then you need to use the check attribute, just like we used for the checkboxes. The big difference here between the radio and the checkboxes is that you can only select one value among many with radios, whereas with checkboxes, you could select all of these. The drop-down menu is created with the select opening and closing tags. Let's go ahead and create one. Right above the submit button, we'll create a new div, and inside of this, we'll create a paragraph, and the paragraph we'll type the following phrase, delivery time. We'll type select a delivery time. Underneath that, we'll type a new div, and inside this, we'll type label. And for the for attribute, we'll say delivery dash time. And over here, the label will be delivery options. Underneath this, we'll type select, hit enter. And for the name attribute, we'll type delivery underscore time. We'll go ahead and add our ID before we forget again. Type delivery dash time. And inside of the select option, this is where we would add our option tags. So we'll type option, hit enter. And for the first one, we'll type a value of morning. We'll put morning there. Underneath it, we'll type option again. We'll type in the value afternoon. And of course, afternoon again. And the final option we'll type is evening. Now, as it is, the default value will be the first option in the list, the first option item, which would be morning. But if we don't want this to be the first option, a good idea is to create a new option. And what this would do is it would ensure that when the browser loads, that the first option in the list would be blank. Now, you want to make sure that that default option is put at the top, because whatever is at the top is the default option. And honestly, it's also a good idea to ensure that your first option is disabled, because we don't want them to select a disabled option. And so we could say in here in the text, please choose a time. Let's save this. Go ahead and open this file in Chrome. And as we can see so far, these are the menu items that we created. We're going to use function F12 to open our developer tools. We'll go ahead and select pizza because it's pre-selected. Actually, let's choose something different. Let's choose salad and be pizza and salad. We want our temperature to be hot and our delivery time to be in the afternoon. We'll select submit. If we click on the index HTML, we go down to the form data. We'll see we have pizza is on, salad is on, temperature is hot, and the delivery time is the afternoon. So far, we've looked at the checkbox, the radio button, and the dropdown. Let's look at how to create a list box. Okay, let's create a new div. Inside of this, we're going to create a paragraph, and we're going to say select condiments. Condiments, there we go. Inside of this, we'll have a new div, and we'll have a label. And for R4, we'll say condiments. Copy that, put it in here, make that lowercase c. Let's see, go down, and we're going to say select. And for our value here, we'll have condiments. And because this is a list box, are created just the same as select dropdowns. So, but we need to add a couple of things. For the list box, we want to say multiple, and then we want to specify the size, how many items are going to show. So we'll specify a size of 4. All right, we've done that. Let's see, we also need to add an ID. There we go, condiments. And so we'll add our first option. And for this one, we'll say salt. And I'm going to make this quicker for us because we're taking a little bit of time. Paste it again and again and again and again. We'll change this one to pepper, garlic. One changes to Tabasco, red pepper flakes, red pepper flakes. And the last one, let's add sardines. What, you don't like sardines? Can't believe it. All right, sardines. Here we go. Now we've added these all in. Let's go ahead and save it, open it up in Finder, open the file. Here it is. And let's go ahead and function F12. Make sure we're viewing it. We're going to select all of these, make sure it's hot, have it in the evening. And I'm going to have salt, Tabasco, red pepper flakes, and sardines. I click submit. Come over here and look on our index, and you can see that the form data is listed. We have pizza is on, salad is on, tuna fish is on, ice cream is on, because remember, it's the on attribute if it's been selected. Temperature is hot, delivery time's evening, and then our condiments. It's listed in a collection here. Condiments, salt, Tabasco, red pepper flakes, and sardines. We've been using the input type submit for our submit buttons, and you can create regular buttons as well just by changing the type attribute value to button. But there's another way with the button tag. Now, the button tag widget can be used in forms as well because it allows you to use the type attribute value of submit. But the coolest thing, the coolest feature, and the reason you might prefer to use the button tag widget over the input tag is the ability to embed an image as well as styling the button with CSS. Let me show you. Well, only adding the image for now. Okay, so let's go down and replace our input submit button at the bottom of the page with a button tag. We'll type button, hit enter. We'll change the type to submit. Inside the opening and closing tags, we're first going to add the text submit, because this is how you get text to show. And then right above that, we're going to put an image tag. I've already downloaded an image. You can do your images as well. In the alt, put a suggestive name here, checkbox. We're going to save it. Go down to Reveal in Finder. We'll open it. And voila, there is the checkbox next to our submit button. You can make other changes as well to the button tag, like applying CSS styles. We're going to get into CSS next week, but for now, let's move on to the password input element. The password widget uses the input element with the type attribute of password, which allows the users to enter the password without the password contents being displayed on the screen. I think most of us have already used this field, if not at least daily. Most web browsers usually provide capabilities to remember passwords of various websites to help the users. So let's create one real quick. Okay, let's create a new div. We'll do this right above our button. Div. And inside, we'll create a label. And the for attribute, we'll use password. And here we'll type password, hit enter. Now, this should be old hat for many of you by now, but this is a good way of developing fluency. So below the label, we're going to create an input with the type password, and the name value will be secret. And the value will leave blank. Actually, we'll just take that out. Go ahead and create an ID here, and we'll make this password. Okay, so we have the label, password, we have the name is secret, and the ID is password. And let's add a couple of other attributes real quick. We're going to add a size. This will limit the width. So we're going to make this, let's say 25. And we'll add a max length. And the max length limits the number of characters. So we'll say 14 is the max number of characters you can have for a password. All right, so we'll save it. We're going to open again in Finder. There we have it. Go ahead and select some options. And I'm going to type in a password. PASSWZRD. Ha, you thought I'd type in my password. Before we do that, let's make sure we open Developer Tools. There we go. Click Submit. And if we look at our index.html, we're going to see that the secret is password, what I just typed in. Just so that you know, it's not something special. I'm going to type in my name and hit Submit. And look at index, and there it is. Secret is Michael. The last widget we're going to consider is a type of container for form elements, and it's called the fieldset. The fieldset tag, it groups related form widgets together and draws a box around the related widgets. The legend tag, which goes with the fieldset, this is the caption for the fieldset. Let's go ahead and do it in Atom. We're going to go ahead and wrap each of these items in a fieldset, but before we do, I want to select and make sure we have the right locations for our items. So we're going to basically highlight that, come down to the last div. I'm going to tab this in a little bit so visually I can track what I'm doing. I'm going to type field set. I will cut that piece, go down here where I tabbed in, paste it. Okay. And I'm going to change the paragraph to my legend. There we go. We have one field set done. Let's say this div wraps down to here, I believe. So going to take this and tab it in. Enter legend again. Oops. We'll enter field set again. I'm going to cut that, come down here, hit enter. Change the paragraph to legend. Go down to our next div. And I'm only tabbing this, so it makes it easier for me to follow what's happening. There's a lot on this page so far. So we'll type field set again. I'm going to cut, come down here to the bottom, paste it in, take some of that out, change this to legend. And we have one more, I think. tab it over, type field set, I'm going to cut, making sure my field sets are wrapping around my divs because this visually won't make sense if we don't do this right. And then I'm putting my legend. Remember, my legend is my caption. Okay. Let's see here. We got password and submit. All right, we're good for there. We're going to save it and open this up in Finder. Go ahead and open the page. And visually, what you should see now is the boxes with the captions that are wrapped around it. All right, that's it for now. We have one more video we're going to do on form widgets before we move on to a discussion of adding videos and audio files to our pages. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you can continue to be alerted of all the future content for this course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.